Hey everyone! Today we're talking about one of the most dramatic battles in history, the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. This was the moment when the powerful Roman Empire suffered a crushing defeat against Germanic tribes around 9 CE. Here's how it happened. The Romans, led by Publius Quinctilius Varus, marched into the thick forests of Germania with 3 legions, cavalry and extra troops, around 10,000 to 15,000 men in total. They looked unstoppable, but the Germans, led by Arminius, had a clever plan. Instead of fighting head-on, they used the forest and rough terrain to trap the Romans and wipe them out. Historians aren't sure how many soldiers Arminius had, but it's likely his army was smaller, maybe even half the size. Still, they used their home turf and surprise attacks to win. The loss was so bad that even years later, Rome couldn't recover. 7 years after the battle, the Romans sent Germanicus to destroy German villages and take revenge, but the damage was already done. After this disaster, Rome gave up trying to control land east of the Rhine River. Instead, they focused on defending their borders, building walls and forts to keep enemies out. This defeat changed Roman plans forever and shaped European history. To really get the full story, we need to go back even further. About 60 years before this battle, Julius Caesar crossed the Rhine River and brought Roman power into Germania. Over time, Rome pushed deeper into the region, building forts and camps to show their strength. By 7 CE, Varus was in charge of keeping peace and expanding Roman control. But things didn't go the way he expected. Arminius, the mastermind behind the ambush, had an unusual past. He wasn't just any German warrior. He actually grew up in Rome, where he was trained in Roman military tactics and even became a Roman citizen. He served as an officer in Varus's army, which made his betrayal even more shocking. While pretending to be loyal, Arminius secretly gathered support from tribes who hated Roman rule. By September 9 CE, Arminius was ready. He tricked Varus by telling him there was a rebellion in the east. Varus believed him and marched his army into the dense forest, completely unprepared. Some people, like Segestes, Arminius' father-in-law, even warned Varus about the danger, but he ignored them. The Romans walked right into a deadly trap. Surrounded and unable to fight properly in the thick trees, they were completely destroyed. For hundreds of years, no one knew exactly where this battle took place. People guessed and searched, but it wasn't until the 1980s that archaeologists finally found the site at Kalkreis in Germany. It all started when Tony Klun, an amateur archaeologist, found Roman coins and bullets with a metal detector. Experts joined in, dug deeper and uncovered weapons, armor, and other evidence that proved this was the battlefield. The site had been hidden for so long because farmers had covered the area with layers of soil while working the land. Over time, this buried the battlefield under more than a meter of dirt. Once archaeologists started digging, they uncovered the remains of the ancient fight. This battle isn't just famous for the Roman defeat. It also changed how Rome thought about expansion. After losing so many soldiers, they stopped pushing further into foreign lands and focused on protecting what they already controlled. It was a harsh lesson about not understanding the terrain and underestimating their enemies. And based on what archaeologists have dug up, it looks like Varus was leading his army westward. But the terrain wasn't doing him any favors. Thick forests and marshy lands squeezed his troops into a long, stretched-out line, making them vulnerable. The Germanic warriors, hidden in the dense forest, waited for the perfect moment to strike. They started by attacking the rear and sides of the Roman columns, pelting them with spears and missiles. This clever ambush made it impossible for the Romans to form their usual tight battle formations, leaving them scattered and exposed. To make things worse, panic broke out as experienced soldiers got mixed up with less trained auxiliary troops, making it easier for Arminius and his men to exploit the chaos. Arminius didn't just rely on surprise attacks though. Archaeologists discovered that the Germans had even built a 400-meter-long defensive wall before the battle. This structure had a drainage ditch and a wooden palisade, proving the ambush was carefully planned long before the Romans arrived. The final showdown likely happened near this wall, where Arminius's forces closed in for the kill. Some believe that heavy rain may have rendered the Romans' bowstrings useless, leaving them with fewer options to defend themselves. After the dust settled, the battlefield was a gruesome sight. Excavations have uncovered thousands of Roman artifacts, coins, armor fragments, and weapons. It's clear the Germans looted whatever they could use and discarded the rest. Only a few items, like the iconic silver mask of a Roman cavalry officer, were buried and preserved under rubble, avoiding discovery by scavengers. The defeat was catastrophic. Varus is said to have taken his own life rather than face capture. The Romans also lost their prized eagle standards, symbols of their legion's honor. It took years to recover just 2 of these eagles, and the numbers of the destroyed legions were never used again, a sign of how deeply this loss scarred Rome. Back in Rome, the news hit hard. Emperor Augustus reportedly smashed his head against walls, crying out, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." For months he mourned the disaster, and the date of the battle became an annual day of sorrow. About 5 years later, the Romans tried to strike back. Germanicus, a skilled commander, launched a revenge campaign. He managed to defeat some Germanic forces, reclaim 2 of the lost eagles, and even gave the fallen Roman soldiers a proper burial. However, these victories didn't lead to long-term control over Germania. The Romans eventually pulled back and focused on defending the Rhine instead of pushing further east. Was this battle a turning point? For centuries, historians thought so. The defeat forced Rome to abandon its dreams of expanding deeper into Germania, setting the stage for a divided Europe with the Rhine as a natural boundary. However, some argue that Germania's rural economy and lack of cities weren't worth the effort of conquest anyway. Instead, trading and recruiting Germanic soldiers for the Roman army became the smarter move. Still, the Teutoburg Forest battle left a lasting impression. It wasn't just about military strategy, it became a powerful symbol. During the 16th century, Arminius, renamed Hermann, was celebrated as a German hero who stood up to foreign invaders. This legend grew even stronger in the 19th century, inspiring German nationalism and leading to the construction of the massive Hermann Monument. Interestingly, this obsession with decisive battles carried over into modern history. During World War II, German generals, inspired by Arminius, believed in winning wars through bold, high-stakes confrontations, like the Battle of the Bulge. But as history shows, wars are rarely won this way, and the fascination with dramatic victories sometimes leads to disaster. Today, the site of the Teutoburg Forest battle has been transformed into a museum that brings this ancient story to life. Visitors can walk the battlefield, see artifacts, and learn how geography and strategy shaped the outcome. The German Historical Museum in Berlin also features exhibits that trace the long history of German identity, starting with this legendary battle. So what can we take away from this? The Battle of Teutoburg Forest wasn't just a military defeat. It was a reminder that even the most powerful empires can be brought down by clever tactics, local knowledge, and determination.